Hi everyone. Considering that my last video was about Joe Biden's relative attractiveness compared to every US president, I feel like now's a good time to palate cleanse and talk about how to kill a Jedi. The Mandalorian Season 2 ended a couple weeks ago, and in it we get 2 episodes where we really get to see just how deadly a Jedi can be, especially from the perspective of non-Jedi. Everyone knows Jedi are badasses who wield lightsabers and can use the Force, but let's quickly go over exactly what a Jedi can and cannot do. A lightsaber is made from a crystal forged into a hilt and is really more of a controlled stream of energy than a sword. Lightsabers can cut through most things pretty easily, although there are a few metals like Beskar and Frick that can deflect it at least for a little while. In the hands of most beings, a lightsaber is decently useful, as a super sword could be, but it really is only more valuable than a blaster in the hands of Force users whose abilities make the weapon more useful. There are 7 different lightsaber forms that you may encounter a Jedi using. Form 1 is just the basics of sword fighting that even you can use without the Force. Form 2 is made for lightsaber dueling and is weak to blasters. Form 3 relies purely on defense. Form 4 is the aggressive form, good in most scenarios, but leads to exhaustion. The 5th form is a blend of the last 2 forms, but still drains energy. 6 is a more balanced approach that incorporates force pushes and uses less energy overall. And Form 7 is basically the dark side force lightsaber style. It allows the users to use strange and violent attacks that pose a danger not just to the opponent but to the user himself. This is why in Revenge of the Sith, Palpatine was able to cut through 3 Jedi Masters like butter, but got his ass beat pretty quickly by Mace Windu. Apart from lightsabers, Jedi also use the Force. Really, when you get down to it, the Force can let you do basically anything, but if we ignore the sequel trilogy, then we can get a more grounded idea of what the Force can do. Overall, it basically lets you do the following. It can give you limited telekinesis, meaning you can move stuff around, but with reasonable limitations depending on the power of the individual. The Jedi Mind Trick lets you control dumb people. By channeling the Force through your body, you can gain superhuman-like agility, which forms the basis for most of those lightsaber forms I was just talking about. Also, the Force gives users either heightened senses or the ability to predict what will happen. This is demonstrated by the Jedi's abilities to deflect blaster bolts and also be amazing pilots. Other things a Jedi can do are turn into a ghost, which is pretty sweet but requires dying. And basically, they also can have a general sense of what's going on in the galaxy or just what's going on around them. This is like when Yoda sensed that Order 66 was going on, so he jumped over and cut the heads off those 2 clone troopers. There's a lot of Force abilities you can also do if you join the dark side, but if this video does well, I'll talk about the Sith later. Despite all of these abilities, not all Jedi are created equal. For instance, you have Jedi like Mace Windu and Anakin Skywalker who are very formidable, and Jedi like this dude who couldn't even survive 2 seconds of blaster fire coming from a single direction. It's not even like he was a second form user or just a Padawan. This guy was a Jedi Master whose specialty was the defensive form, so there's really no excuse for him to suck this much. Anyway, now that we know what Jedi can do, let's talk about how to kill them. When it comes to close quarters, don't try it. A Jedi with a lightsaber is going to effortlessly take down anyone in close quarters unless they have a big advantage in numbers, have unique cyber enhancements, or are clad in lightsaber-proof armor. Even then, top Jedi like Mace Windu, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Luke Skywalker don't seem to have too much trouble getting past these issues. When it comes to fighting a Jedi, it's best to do it from far away. This is the way. Speaking of Mandalorians, much of their equipment is made specifically for fighting Jedi. Their jetpacks are used to quickly create distance where a Jedi can't follow. They have armor that is lightsaber resistant or even lightsaber proof. They can also deflect redirected blaster bolts. They also have things like rockets and flamethrowers that can't be deflected. But even with all these advantages, they still have a pretty hard time trying to kill Jedi most of the time. But who cares about how Mandalorians can kill Jedi? Let's talk about how you, the average person with limited means, can start killing Jedi. You're going to want to use something that is deadly from range, something that can't be deflected by a lightsaber, and can be used in a surprise attack. A typical blaster can be used from far away and with surprise, but unless you're fighting this guy, the Jedi is most likely going to send that bolt straight back at you. So let's consider the viability of other blasters. Anything that is especially designed for a greater rate of fire is a promising option. Jedi can predict and deflect blaster fire pretty regularly, but if you give them too much to deal with, their bodies won't be able to keep up with their senses, and they will eventually succumb to the blaster bolts. This is how most Jedi died in the Clone Wars. They were just simply overwhelmed. Unfortunately for you, even if your weapon has a high rate of fire, you're still likely to have the first couple of shots directed back at you, so long as the Jedi doesn't use Form 2. Another idea is to use a scatter gun, basically the blaster version of a shotgun. Multiple bolts launched at a Jedi all at once create a difficult situation for the Jedi. However, the issues with using a scatter gun are finding the best range for optimal shot dispersal, which, let's be honest, is probably going to be pretty close, and having one or two bolts deflected back at you before the Jedi is dead. The last blaster option would be something like a sniper rifle. These things fire bolts that are quite powerful, but with a relatively low rate of fire. Obviously, something like this would be terrible within the view of the average Jedi, but by combining distance with the element of surprise, I think that could make a relatively viable option in taking down a Jedi. Blasters aren't the only firearms in Star Wars. There are also disruptors and slug throwers. The Mandalorian uses a disruptor to great effect. Unfortunately, we never see him use it against an opponent with a lightsaber, so it's hard to tell if its disintegration rounds could be deflected. I doubt at least the round could be returned like a blaster bolt, but on the other hand, disruptors seem to have an extremely low rate of fire, requiring individual loading of each round, so one would have to be mindful when using this type of weapon. Slug throwers, I'm pretty sure, are just conventional firearms like we have in the real world. Apparently, the rifles used by the Tusken Raiders are slug throwers, so maybe that's about the standard for projectile firearms in the Star Wars universe. Supposedly, they're not really popular because many armors, like clone trooper armor or stormtrooper armor, can deflect slug throwers pretty easily. Although, I mean, we just saw in The Mandalorian how a cycler rifle, which is, what the Tusken Raiders use, was able to shoot through the armor of a bunch of stormtroopers. So, I don't really know. But anyway, these are really good to use against Jedi because not only can they not be deflected, the slugs actually melt and continue forward when making contact with a lightsaber, making them extremely dangerous for a Jedi to block. Another valuable weapon, although maybe a bit more rare than the others, is the Geonosian sonic blaster. These fired sonic blasts could rupture the organs of living beings and crush droid circuitry. A Jedi can't really counter this gun, and I'm pretty sure a lot were killed by it in the Colosseum at the start of the Clone Wars. It appears you have to get pretty close to use it though, which isn't super great. Your next best bet, aside from firearms, are explosives. I don't think I have to go into much detail why these would work well on Jedi, but just be careful that you're not just outright throwing a grenade at a Jedi, because it can very easily be pushed back at you with the Force. I would say large conventional explosives, including bombs and rockets, are a pretty good option. If you've ever played Star Wars Battlefront 2, you will know that Risk rockets were OP against all opponents, Jedi or not. Also, look at this guy. He has a Risk rocket. Pretty cool. The final weapon that I would recommend is sand. Jedi are known to hate it because it's rough,
coarse, and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
If you like this video, let me know what your Jedi killing strategy would be in the comments below. Personally, I would like to be as far away as possible with a Tusken rifle and maybe a Geonosian sonic rifle, weapons that a Jedi might underestimate and not defend correctly against. If you're a subscriber or thinking about doing so, I'm probably just going to continue making videos about stuff that I happen to find interesting. If you liked my How They Would Fight in Real Life Batman series thing that I was doing before, that will be coming back soon. Otherwise, you might see some more Star Wars stuff in the near future. Love you guys. Bye-bye.